He's right, I do have a different outfit for every night. Thank you for having me. It's great to be a part of this. I love doing events for the community and also women. Alright, we're gonna get into our first feature of the night. So, Melanie is an educator, storyteller, radio producer, and activist. Her community involvement is powered by the belief that when we share our stories, we realize our connections. Melanie produces a radio program called Still Life with KLBP, Long Beach Public Radio. She has performed and hosted and curated storytelling events throughout the city. Melanie has also designed community art installations for Soundwalk and Retro Row. Put your hands together for Melanie.
Hello, I've never been on this stage. It's exciting. So we had assembled early for a day of dissent, my friends and I, ready to go to LA to protest. We were dressed in our poignant t-shirts, our comfortable shoes, and our brilliant ideas splattered across the poster board. We got on the train to go to downtown LA, which is where these things happen. And as we approached the big city and got closer to our destination, more and more people got on with their signs and their poignant t-shirts and their sensible shoes and their pussy hats. And there were even clergy in complicated hats and colorful robes and outfits I had never seen before, but were totally impressive. And you could feel the energy. And I love the energy of a protest. A mass of like-minded people carrying their belief system on their shirts and on their signs, traveling as one unit, marching, chanting, singing, resisting, hoping. It's like church to me. And I remember my first protest because it was the day that Proposition 8 had passed, which was banning same-sex marriage in California. And the day that it had passed, a friend of mine came to my house and was debilitated, of course, and sad. And she said, there's a protest going on Broadway. And I'm like, well, okay, let's do something with this sadness. So she, my husband, and I jumped in the car and we just drove down to Broadway. And when we saw the throngs of somber people moving in one direction, we parked and followed them. And the group led us to the intersection at Cherry and Broadway. And, as though we had received some message, once we approached the intersection, everyone just sat down. Hundreds of people. And obviously you're from here, that's a busy intersection. Hundreds of people sat down in the middle of the intersection at Cherry and Broadway. Silent. And I'll never forget it. And overhead were the helicopters and the searchlights and these reverent people sitting in the middle of this intersection. And it was incredible. And just as we had received the message to sit, we received the message to rise, and we parted ways and went home. And I was hooked. So as I said, my friends and I are on the train heading to LA. Other protesters are getting in, you can feel the energy. And we get out and we join the multitudes. And as much of an individual as I enjoy being, I love letting go of that and being an instrument in a movement. So that's what I did. We joined in the movement and we walked. And eventually, after walking for a little while, a message came back to us via other people and people on bikes saying, we're going to march to the jail because there are detainees there who were detained at the border. This was a protest against family separations at the border. It was keep families together. And the word had come down that there were some detainees at the jail in downtown LA, so off to that location we walked. And I remember distinctly because I was behind a guy with a tuba. That happens. So I was like, right, be who you are, right? to the jail in LA, and of course I had driven past it and seen it a million times, but I had never stood up against it, and I had never thought about what it was or what it represented or how it was designed. It had never occurred to me. But as we stood there as we congregated at the bottom of this giant building, you had to look up, and it was this concrete gray wall, as far up as you could see, because we were so close to it. And it has these rectangular windows that are very narrow. And when you look closely, you can see that the windows are beveled, are inset in to provide even less light than you thought, and even less of a view to the inhabitants. And I sat there thinking about it, and everyone just kind of stood there yelling, tuba, honk, honk, honk. And one of the members of my group, her name was Laura, she was an experienced activist. I was totally in awe of all her stories of being arrested, and then what happened? She had all the juicy stories. And she was a natural at this, and she was inspired to direct us. And she was bouncing, waves, arms waving. Everybody, let's sing, let's sing. And led the crowd in De Colores, which I didn't know I knew until all of a sudden I was singing it in some kind of approximated Spanish. That's the De Colores, da 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 da. And I was thinking, man, I know this on some level. I know this song. And we all knew that song on some level. And we sang it together as a choir, me and 1,000 of my closest friends. And she continued to guide us, and we continued to look at this monstrosity and sing this song about rainbows and how the colors of the rainbows make us feel like singing joyfully. And this institution just towered above us. And Laura directed us through 4 or 5 rounds, and she raised her hand, and everybody knew that that meant to listen. And we stopped. And we listened. And you could hear raining down on us a choir of little taps, tap, 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 pings and pangs from the narrow rectangular windows of the building above us. They were calling out to us. They had heard us, and we were hearing them. And we sat there quietly, I don't know how many people, listening to them, tapping. And in some of the rectangles, you could see a pen light, some small light flashing. They wanted us to know they were there, and we wanted them to know we were here. And then again, my inspired friend led us in a chant, the first round by herself. We hear you, we see you, we are with you. Second round, 500 people. We hear you, we see you, we are with you. It was incredible. Thank you.